It's an awful thing to admit that your heroes have been surpassed. Muhammad Ali was more than a boxer, he was a phenomenon, a cultural icon who transcended his sport. But at 6'3" and 214 pounds, he would be dwarfed by some of today's giants. Lennox Lewis stood 2 inches taller than Ali and was more than 40 pounds heavier. Anthony Joshua is an inch taller still and another 10 pounds heavier. For all of Ali's speed and guile, he would have been outgunned in height, reach, and weight by the heavyweights of today. As a West Ham fan, I still cling to the notion that Bobby Moore was the supreme defender. But Bobby Moore liked to drink, and he wasn't averse to the occasional cigarette, unlike the elite athletes of the modern game. A player like Cristiano Ronaldo has a personal coach and a nutrition team. He's bigger, stronger, and faster than anyone Bobby Moore ever encountered. Like Muhammad Ali, Bobby Moore would have been outgunned and outmatched. Jesse Owens was an amazing sprinter, but Usain Bolt would run past him like he was standing still. Mark Spitz won 9 gold medals and was unquestionably one of the greats of swimming. But with 23 gold medals, Michael Phelps subsequently made him look like a child doing doggy paddle. In almost every instance, the sports stars of today are stronger, faster, and better equipped than their predecessors. However, could we say the same about those working in demolition and construction? Would they dwarf their forebears from years gone by? Well, to conduct a fair comparison, we need to look at them on a like-for-like basis. I mean, Roger Federer hits a tennis ball faster than Fred Berry. Rory McIlroy hits a golf ball further than Jack Nicklaus. But in both cases, modern equipment plays a role. So let's begin by stripping away the trappings of modern life. How would a worker from the 1970s compare against a worker of today? To find out, let's take a look at a typical working day. Our worker from the 1970s arrives on site. Within 2 minutes, he's at work. He hasn't paused for hard hats, high-vis vests, safety boots. He's wearing his repurposed Sunday best. His head protected by nothing more than a cloth cap and a donkey jacket to keep the cold out and the dust off. And curiously, his donkey jacket is black, which, contrary to modern belief, didn't render him invisible. Meanwhile, our worker of 2025 has arrived. He has donned special boots, gloves, safety glasses, a high-vis jacket and a hard hat, the colour of which denotes his standing on site, apparently. He's queued to sign in and sat through a 10-minute site induction. And he's still not at work. He needs to do a pre-start briefing, a drug and alcohol test, and he needs to get the green light from the consultant checking the building for the presence of bats. By mid-morning, our 1970s worker is already an hour ahead. Now let's turn to the true test, the nature of the work itself. While the 2025 worker is signing forms, his 1970s counterpart is engaged in strenuous manual labour that simply doesn't exist on modern sites today. Before the widespread adoption of hydraulic excavators and hydraulic breakers, demolition was a visceral pursuit conducted with sledgehammers, mattocks and shovels. Those tools built a level of raw, functional strength that few modern jobs require. The 1970s worker was an athlete by necessity. Every day was a weight training session fueled by practical need rather than a gym membership. This difference in physical demand leads us to diet. The typical 1970s labourer's diet was robust and high in calories. A full English breakfast and a hearty pub lunch maybe. That intake was essential to power the immense effort expended. While less clean than the macro-counted diets of modern athletes, it provided the energy for sustained, heavy work. However, the health impacts can't be ignored. The ubiquity of smoking and the lack of protective gear meant constant exposure to asbestos and harmful particulates. While physically hardened, the 1970s worker often suffered cumulative damage to his lungs and joints that shortened his career, if not his life expectancy. The 2025 worker, while potentially carrying more weight and relying more on machinery, probably benefits from better nutrition and superior healthcare. The comparison is further complicated by regulation. The 1970s worker operated in what was effectively a Wild West. no risk assessments, no method statements, and that enabled rapid execution. The task was identified and the work began. The 2025 worker operates in a world driven by the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. Every action is measured and planned. That means less time on the tools, but it also means fewer accidents. Our 1970s worker tended to be a jack of all trades, whereas the modern site is a collection of specific contractors. In one sense, the 2025 worker is technically superior, but within a narrow field. Yet strip away the powered tools and laser levels, and the 1970s generalist, with his raw physical ability and adaptable skill set, may well prove to have been the more competent worker. If a sudden electromagnetic pulse rendered all digital tools and machines useless, who would be more effective? The 1970s worker possessed an intuitive, hands-on understanding of materials. His strength was in his back and his biceps. His knowledge was etched into the scars on his hands. His tools were an extension of his body, not a replacement for it. The industry has evolved to save the worker's body, but perhaps at the expense of their self-reliance. Short of a breach in the space-time continuum, I can never fully test my prognosis. But if I was a betting man, my money would be on the industry's old school.